In 1998, Blaine voters rejected a referendum to build a community center in the city. Now, almost 20 years later, Blaine voters will again be asked to weigh in on the issue. A ballot question will ask voters if they want to approve a tax levy for the building of a community center. Voters will also be reminded in the ballot question that any operating expenses not covered by operating revenue will be paid for by the taxpayers. The estimated first-year cost for building the community center is $60 on a $200,000 home. It has been a long process to get to this point. A task force of community members has been meeting for more than 2 years.
Well, the process itself, when I came in, I was kind of open-minded. I wanted to see both sides of the picture. I didn't know a lot about the cost and budget numbers that existed within the city. I didn't know a lot about how much it costs to build a community center. And so that helped a lot in understanding that. But the biggest thing more than anything is I wanted to see other people's opinions, because you are always going to get opinions of people that are different than yours.
At the start of the process, the task force commissioned a survey. A sampling of the population participated in the survey, and the results indicated that the work of the task force should continue.
The survey came back with about 67% of people in favor of wanting to look at a community center.
The task force hired a consultant to help in the research and planning phases. Monthly meetings were held, and many different groups were brought in to share their perspective on a community center.
Over the last 2 years, we have met with many different parts of the community. We've met with the athletic programs, we've met with the school districts, we've met with businessmen and women who are in the community, we've met with the seniors. And I think that our biggest goal from the beginning was to look at what the whole community needs.
The group also visited several area community centers and learned about how they are run.
Just looking at the different community centers in the area, and they all run differently. Some have partners, some very few run with just city management. The partnerships are different everywhere you go. So if you have a partnership with the YMCA in Forest Lake, it's going to be different than the partnership with the YMCA in Andover. And so when we're trying to figure out what kind of community is set up and what would best benefit our community, it's going to look very different than the community next door.
It has not been decided if a partner would help run a community center in Blaine, but the task force has had discussions with potential partners and appear to be leaning towards recommending a partnership. Another big discussion was where to build a community center.
We went ahead and looked at 11 different plots within the city of Blaine. And when you look at the bottom line, we ended up choosing a piece of property that we think is appropriate. The city council could choose that differently, but we chose a piece of property the city of Blaine already owned. And that already cuts a lot of the cost.
A vacant lot next to City Hall is the suggested location. Discussions also centered on what to include in the building. From the start, task force members thought the building needed to be multifunctional, a mix of meeting and gathering spaces and activity space.
Our gym space is really heavily occupied right now. During the winter with different programs, there are not very many places where kids can go and shoot baskets or hang out in the evening after school if they're not part of one of those programs.
One big item was the discussion of what to do with the Mary Ann Young Senior Center. A new senior center could be included in a new community center, or the existing space in Aquator Park could be rebuilt. After much discussion, the task force recommended the community center and the senior center be separate entities. The next step in the long process is educating the community before Election Day.
I think that is our big piece right now. In the next 6 weeks, we really need to get out there in the community and educate the community. We have on the city webpage, there is a resource where you can see everything that we've been doing throughout the 2 years of meeting. And also on October 10th, Monday, October 10th at 7 p.m., we're going to have a meeting at City Hall. And it's just an educational meeting, talking a little bit about what steps we've taken so far and what's going to be on the ballot, and there people can come and learn a little bit more.
Blaine is a very different city than it was in 1998. 20,000 more people call Blaine home. The median age of the population has shifted younger. The task force found in its research that every city of more than 40,000 people in Minnesota has a community center, except Blaine. But it is the voters who will decide if Blaine will join the community center trend. For North Metro TV News, Ben Hayle reporting.